The Universities Minister, Jo Johnson, will use a speech today to warn that academic institutions must protect free speech. He'll say students must be able to both hear and challenge controversial views during their years of study. Some universities and student groups have refused entry to speakers, as Edward Kirwan reports.
Time spent at university must open minds, not close them. That's the view of Jo Johnson, the Universities Minister, who will today set out a firm defence of free speech on campus. Speaking at a Jewish cultural festival in Birmingham, he will say students must be free to challenge each other's views, and groups seeking to stifle those who do not agree with them must be stopped. His defence of open debate comes after speakers on subjects from the State of Israel to transgender rights have faced bans, sometimes by student unions, for having views considered inappropriate. Others have demanded so-called safe spaces, where they won't hear about issues they may find upsetting. Mr. Johnson will say this cannot be tolerated, reiterating universities have an obligation to protect free speech and encourage frank and rigorous debate. From next April, a new regulator, the Office for Students, will have the power to fine universities that fail to uphold free speech. The body representing British universities said it would not allow legitimate debate to be stifled. The challenge for university leaders will be deciding where to draw the line between extremist speech and a frank exchange of views. Edward Kirwan, BBC News.
Anthony Seldon, a word to you both, to you first, about the sentiments here that Jo Johnson says that universities must protect free speech. Is he right on that?
He's absolutely right. I mean, we're in danger of making this so complicated. It's very simple. Universities must be about letting dialogue and debate happen, not suppress. If you suppress people's views, then you romanticize them, you legitimize them, you publicize them. What we need to have in universities is the opposite. We need to look at views which are false, evil maybe, and put forward superior argument that allows students to understand that truth emerges from a conflict of different views, not from the suppression of one right point of view, which is the danger if we do try to stop people expressing views. There's also the law that bans people inciting racial hatred and violence. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about views that people don't like and which we need to let people air. Well, I think you can have things like trigger warnings. There is clearly material that people will listen to that they can find upsetting, and if they know that's happening, then they have the freedom not to attend that particular offering, lecture maybe. But that's different from suppressing views that we don't like. There's a real danger that we have a tyranny of the minority, some kind of thought police, which is deciding what is acceptable and what isn't, and that is not the job of a university. The NUS does great job overall, a great deal of good work, but I think they're in the wrong place on this. They should be championing free speech and then putting forward better arguments which allows truth to emerge. That's how truth happens. We have a thesis, an antithesis, and then a synthesis.